Hola, hello. My name is Katherine Angulo. I'm the Program Director of Thriving in Ministry Initiatives here at the McGrath Institute for Church Life at the University of Notre Dame. This video is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be more practical, less theological, but hopefully with a view of the future, how the Church of 2050 can be affected positively if we look at it from the preaching point of view to enhance our communities that we are experiencing right now in the United States. The title of this talk is Preaching the Ministry of Christ in the Multicultural Church. We have heard plenty of times the level of disaffiliation that the Catholic Church is experiencing in the United States. But this disaffiliation has brought a little bit of hopelessness in our communities, when in reality, we also have to see the goodness that is happening in the church. For example, after 2021, we have learned, thanks to the Vatican, that the Catholic Church actually grew universally. There are 1.3 billion Catholics in the world right now, 1.3% higher than from before the COVID. That is excellent news, but where is the church growing? The white Catholics remain about 17.67%. The number grew in Africa 3.1%. America and Asia grew 1% each. And the Americas has 48% of the world Catholics in the world. Which one is the country that has the most Catholics right now? Brazil. Brazil is one of the largest countries right now with 180 million Catholics. All these results, in addition with the results that we received from the 5th National Encuentro from 2019, show us that we're in a historic time in the Catholic Church. Did you know that right now, approximately 13.5 million Catholics in the United States are Hispanic immigrants? In addition to that, we have 16.6 million that are born in the United States. This is the first time that the number of born in the United States Catholics are higher than the ones that are migrating. Only 4% under the age of 21 are Hispanic immigrants. This is historic. The church is growing, the church is young, but at the same time, this new church that we have in front of us have specific needs that we can cover through the preaching. We cannot expect that with what we used to do before, this community can engage and have a culture of affiliation in our parishes. So let's think about the Church of 2050. Are you working for the Church of 2050 right now? What do I mean with this? Probably many of you say, well, hopefully by then I'm no longer here. But we're planting the seeds for the Church of 2050 right now. What we teach and how we teach it as Catholics is going to be the same. But we need to understand that this is like the art of archery. We have plenty of arrows, but what we need to do is to be able to aim more clearly through our preaching, to be able to get to the hearts of our young church. So what are the goals when we're talking about enhancing the diversity of the multicultural cultures that we have in our parishes? So to be able to cover this topic, I would like to make 3 clear definitions to see what I'm aiming to for the Church of 2050. When we speak about culture, we want to include the concepts of and ideas of a group that they have when they express who they are. These certain behaviors can be attributed on the way that they behave as a community, and this can include dimensions like their food, their dresses, their dances, etc. When we talk about multicultural, we talk about the existence of multiple cultures in a single community or geographical area. But the goal that we are aiming for is for intercultural. The intercultural community is the reality of different cultures that interact and engage one another in a way that welcomes and respects the difference among them. Being intercultural is what we strive as Catholics, universal, because our differences, cultures can work together to strengthen the whole body of Christ. So let me give you an example. What will be the best of both worlds? I'm going to talk right now about the Anglo community and the Hispanic community. Something beautiful that we see in the Anglo community is that discipline that we have in the formation of our children from one sacrament to another. And something beautiful that we see in the Hispanic community is the level of attention and celebration that they have to the sacramental life. Just imagine what will happen if we put those two strains into the generations that come in the Catholic Church. We will have a lot stronger Catholics in our communities. I'm gonna use three big generalizations that are gonna give us an idea of the differences that I want to provide you, to give you an idea of the realities of these communities. Please know that these generalizations are large. Each community is particular to the location and the numbers that they have. But I think with the ideas that I'm gonna give you, you're gonna get a good concept of what is needed. So for example, let's start with the understanding of the church. For the Anglo community, the church is the building. That's why we invest so much in that building. We make sure that the structure is strong, that it's a place that is comfortable, is welcoming. For that reason, it's very easy for us to be able to have endowments to build new places that are needed for our community. For the Hispanic community, church is the priest. For that reason, they really don't care how the church looks like, of how much a space they need. As long as they can take care of the priest, they know that they are going to be able to celebrate the sacraments, they are going to be able to gather in the Eucharist. And that is their attention. For the African American community and the Asian Pacific communities in the Catholic Church, they don't care that much about the building, or they don't care as much about the priest. What they care about the most is about the communal experience. That's why we can see clearly how they will travel long ways to be able to celebrate Mass every Sunday, even when they have a Catholic church right across their street. Neither of these initial uses of the concepts of what church is from these cultures are bad. Each one of us show us a level, a layer that we can grow into our love for church. But these kind of ways that we interact with our faith can also change the needs that we have as a community. For example, have you ever seen a crucifix in the Hispanic community? Usually a crucifix in the Hispanic community is gonna be very bloody. You're gonna see a suffering Christ with a very painful expression in their face. Why is this? Because for the Hispanic community, when they see him, they are able to say, if he suffered that much, he understands my pain. And that's where the love and respect comes to Jesus Christ. For the Anglo community, what you are gonna see is usually the resurrected Christ. We see this a lot in our parishes across the United States. But the message that is sending to our communities is, as long as I'm good and I follow him, I'm gonna be okay. What is the challenge here? That when we talk to the Hispanic community, one of the biggest challenges right now is the self-worth of actually heaven. They think that their call is just to suffer, and they keep suffering until the end. It's very hard for them to understand that salvation is part of their faith. That's why their self-esteem is so low. And in our preaching, we need to enhance that concept that they deserve also the salvation. Christ just didn't die in the cross, he resurrected. For the Anglo community, is the opposite. What we see is we have this love for Christ. Remember how many times we sang to the children, Jesus loves you, yes, I know, for the Bible tells me so. But the problem is, when they suffer in life, the number one question is, why, if I follow the resurrected Jesus, I'm a good person, why I'm suffering? That is another area that we need to improve, to help them see that faith is passed not just from the celebration and the resurrection of Christ, but he also said very clearly in the cross, if you want to follow me, pick up the cross and follow me. If we look at other communities, we also can see, for example, that in the African American community, the interest to be able to build community is so strong that when they did a recent research on their values, the number one clarification and clear expectation that they have about a parish was to be able to be communal. That's why when they don't see the church alive in the everyday life, in the political life, in the social life of the community, they don't feel as engaged to the church. For the American Indian community, did you know that 1 of every 4 American Indians in the United States are Catholic? And for the Asian Pacific Islanders, do you know that what they're struggling the most right now in the United States is to be able to pass the faith to the next generation without the life of the martyrs? If you see any art of the Asian Pacific Catholic community, you are always going to see any Christian session surrounded by the martyrs, because that's very entrenched in their faith. And that's why they're struggling with the newer generations that are not familiar with these martyrs. How you can live faith in the Catholic Church today without that reality in their everyday life. So friends, let me give you a very clear, simple example of what this church is feeling, this multicultural church, that needs to have a connection with the message that we are giving them, that they are welcome, that they are part of this community. Let me tell you the story of my good friend, Brenda Noruega. She was a delegate representing the United States for the Synodal Gathering of Young Adults and the further building of the Cristo Vive document. She was one of the members of the United States, but once she went and was interacting with Pope Francis, she was invited to be part of the International Youth Advisory representing the United States. There are only 7 young adults in the world that are part of that advisory. Well, when she came back in 2019, after that wonderful experience, she came to the gathering of bishops in Washington, D.C. in the month of November. And right before her talk, they have Bishop Barron talking about the level of disaffiliation that we're experiencing in the United States. And it was amazing after his incredible presentation, how people raised up, especially the bishops. And one bishop after other bishop after other bishop stood up with questions. What happened? Why did they leave? What can we do to bring them back? It was interesting. I have never seen in a gathering of the bishops such lines of questionnaires for him, to the point that the director of the meeting had to cut the meeting because they didn't have enough time to continue the questions. They couldn't have been there the whole day. The session that preceded that was the session of Brenda, where she was going to express to the bishops her experience as part of this advisory board. A group of Hispanic young adults gathered with me to watch that online. It was on live TV. And I was so excited to see the level of joy that they had. Seriously, this was like our World Cup or our Olympics. And we were cheering her on, and we could see her in the screen, and every time we saw her talking, we were clapping, we were celebrating. But guess what happened? After she shared her story, the leader of the session asked for questions, and not even one bishop stood up. I was disappointed, but I was okay. What surprised me was the reaction of the young adults that were with me. They started to say, Katherine, they don't get it. They don't get it. I asked them why they don't get it. And they say, Katherine, in the talk prior to this, we have all the bishops standing up about those that have left the church. But when we talk about the realities of those who are here in the church, not even one stood up to compliment or to ask questions of what is working. That is what is happening with the multicultural church. And that's one aspect that you can embrace in the preaching realities of your parish. No matter in what state you are, no matter what your reality of your parish is, I assure you, you have already experienced, or you are going to experience very soon, the flipping of your communities. I have the privilege in my work to travel to 36 dioceses per year, and I'm seeing this happening all over the place. It might be that your parish is flipping to a Samoan community. It might be that it's flipping to a Hispanic community. It might be that it's flipping to a Filipino community. How you're going to embrace that multicultural church that is in front of you, and how in your preaching you can send the message to let them know, we know you are here, and the gospel is also for you. So let me give you an example. When I get asked the question, why they don't come to the events, I said, because in many cases, we don't talk about the realities. With my colleague, Lenny De Lorenzo, I was able to create a program for families in the San Antonio Diocese. And something that we used was the Holy Family of Nazareth as a great entry point for them to be able to experience the church. In Matthew 2, 13, 18, we can see how the Blessed Mother and Saint Joseph are carrying Jesus to exile to Egypt. Why did they have to leave? They have to leave to just make sure that they could keep him alive. And why did they experience throughout this story of migration? We can see from this history of the Holy Family how they have to flee from danger. How many of our families have to flee because of danger? And with this sacrifice, a lot of innocence. Focus in the Magi's and in Joseph's dream and the promptness and the urgency for them to get out. Many cases you are not seeking to leave a place. You have to because of the danger. Also, you see the hasty preparations that they need to carry the child to safety. Mary, as a newly mother, carrying an infant to a land that she had never experienced before. Also see how with Mary, she hears the other mothers mourning the death of their children. And she had to experience those needs, those horrible pains and needs of those family members. The danger when we flee from one place to another, we have a connecting point with this multicultural church. Another example, the protection that they found in Egypt. See how Joseph constructed a home, a manger, to secure the arrival of this family in a line that wasn't theirs. We can see how Joseph is lying across the entrance to the dwelling, like a shepherd protecting the sheepfold. To the point of this area is to see the call of worry and protection. How we are talk to the families about these realities they experience every day. The relying of the settling into a community. They were able to connect, the Holy Family was able to connect to the largest Jewish settlement outside of the Holy Land during that time that was in Alexandria. They found a Jewish settlement where they were able to be part of that community, be part of that, to have an ownership on that community and be part of the people. To be able to exchange those gifts and favors as a community during those hardships, to be able to support each other. They were able to see the priority of a community and the grace of it, very much about their parish, just like what we can send a message to the newer generations here in the United States. When I travel around the nation, I receive many questions, but my number one question is, Katherine, what do I do when my parish is flipping to a new reality? Do you want actually to know what is the hottest topic right now? What happens when this community is so large that you have to ask the people attending the 9 o'clock Mass and the 10 o'clock Mass and the new Mass that they can only have 2 or 1 Mass in that language because the other groups are growing. I know, I'm mentioning a very hot topic, but that's the reality that we're entering into. So my invitation to you is, when you are embracing these changes in your community through your preaching, are you able to connect to these realities and be able to connect it to the Bible that has plenty of stories of this exile that has been forced into the people due to danger, exile that has been put into people because illnesses, because of political realities, or even because they have been called to preach the good news. How we're gonna embrace, through preaching, the true message of the Bible to the multicultural church so they can see that the God that they believe in, no matter where they are, is present for them and for everyone in their communities. Because friends, here is my invitation to you. Do you see them? Do you love them? And would you miss them if they are gone?